Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasili Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, continuing to read from Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. Today we'll cover chapter 5 and some others. Yukta Vairagya chapter 5, sorry, what is that? Section titled Yukta Vairagya and Vaishnav and Vedic literatures in this book. Okay, so beginning with chapter 5, page 90. This is titled Troubling Undercurrents. We know from Srila Prabhupada that towards the end there was some transcendental conflicts in Gaudiya Math. So, if we are speaking about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, during his time, whatever happened, they are covering in this book includes this also. As the Gaudiya Math continued to grow, it attracted more money and prestige, yet with these came problems. Up until around 1930, when the marble temple in Bagh Bazaar was opened, most devotees who joined the mission were serious about spiritual life. The mood was buoyant and lively. But while preaching, temple construction and other devotional activities continued unabated, lethargy, backbiting, and other prejudicial propensities gradually infiltrated. Srila Saraswati Thakur saw seeds of worldly attachment taking root in the very institution he had founded for expelling iniquity from the world. Many Matvasis became increasingly idle, their days largely consumed by cooking, eating, washing the pots, then resting, then again rising, cooking, eating, washing the pots, so on. Srila Saraswati Thakur, there's a comment here. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami remarked, Khava Dava Dukan, a shop for eating, drinking. My Guru Maharaj used to say, bake some rice, cook it and sleep nicely. So that's what it should not be. So Srila Saraswati Thakur would lament, our ashram is a joint mess, a place simply for eating and sleeping. He would quote Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhalo manda khai heri pari chintahin, nahi bhavi e deho chhadivo kona dine. Sometimes I eat nicely, sometimes not. I see this and that, dress as I like, and have no worries at all. I am so carefree that I never consider that one day I will have to give up the body. He warned that to collect funds and convert them into stool and urine and to live like monkeys is not the business of the Gaudiya Math. In other words, collection of funds was not meant merely for eating. It appeared that certain of his leading disciples were becoming ever more motivated by desires for popularity, honor, plaudits, and position. But Srila Saraswati Thakur deemed this inevitable because for propagating Shuddha Bhakti, the institution was collecting money from materialists, along with which came poison to be ingested. When at Bagh Bazaar a visitor observed, it seems as if some of your preachers are losing their edge, Srila Saraswati Thakur replied, I established this mutt for Hari Bhajan. What happens to those who do not perform bhajan is now manifesting. As early as 1927, he penned an appeal for unity. Surrounded by enemies, we are serving the Lord and His devotees with great determination. Each of us more or less becomes forgetful of service to Krishna, being servants of our 6 enemies. My plea to all of you is to unite and serve the Lord in a spirit of friendship and cooperation, each having the same goal in your heart. Ekaki amar nahi paye bal. Alone I obtain no strength. Remember this and perform Kirtan Yajna in unison. The indispensable good quality expected of those in charge of Kirtan Yajna is to have friendship with all Vaishnavas and execute devotional service by pleasing all Vaishnavas. Despite bewailing the plight of the organization he had founded, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati never commented disparagingly about it, for yet he did not accept that the quintessential Gaudiya Math could be polluted by the misbehavior of any delinquent members. He delineated the difference between genuine disciple and motivated followers, between the real transcendental Gaudiya Math and its outer semblance. He wrote, Sri Gaudiya Math does not and cannot have anything in common with those who duplicitously join it with a motive to misuse divine knowledge to serve their own selfish ends. Feigned diksha and obtainment of divine knowledge are never identical. Sri Chaitanya and his sincere devotees are eternally present in Sri Gaudiya Math. Owlish persons incapable of seeing the light are called Mayavadis, Karmis, or wayward non-devotees. There's actually a section in volume 3 or 2, 3, explaining what is Gaudiya Math. And he wrote a lot about that. From that we can understand Gaudiya Math is an eternal organization that comes when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes. And when things go wrong, that is not, as mentioned here, that's not the actual Gaudiya Math, it's the material aspects. In a lecture in 1932, Srila Saraswati Thakur stated how some disciples considered that by spending profusely on preaching programs and printing, he was embezzling their hard-earned collections. He mentioned by name a particular leading devotee as one of the several who thought it better to keep those funds in the bank. But he continued, my aim is not to make provisions and lay bricks for rascals who will come in the future. Possibly the structures already made will one day become dens of ganja and vice. He further commented that some of his men had voiced opinion that now there were enough books and magazines, so all printing activities should be scrapped. There was no need for further hard work, for by showing the deity and receiving collections, the Matvasis could live happily. Now one thing we'll notice, everything is repeating, unfortunately, in ISKCON. So whatever instructions here is meant for all time, practically. A sannyasi once returned from a speaking engagement and declared, I delivered a superb speech that was much appreciated. So I shouldn't take ordinary rice prasad, cook puris for me. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati heard of this, he became disappointed and said, Karilam sannyasi hai gelo vilasi. I made them renunciates, but they became voluptuaries. A ditty he often repeated in his later years. He often stated that several of his sannyasis were giving lectures simply to acquire prestige. Okay, so this chapter we are reading, don't be disturbed by it. This is some of the things that happened at the end. But Gaudiya Math set out to do what it did, and ISKCON came out of it. And it was eternal. It is an eternal organization. Now he left some attempting to drive out institutional dross. In a letter in 25th April 1933, he gave a warning via a series of instructions to certain seemingly intractable Matvasis. So here it is, important points for brahmacharis and sannyasis. He wrote, if our Harinam bhajan decreases, then our outlook will become like that of materialists and will devour us. Number one, whatever sannyasis do for personal sense gratification should be done by going barefoot, never using shoes, nor conveyances. They should not even use the worst vehicle, let alone the first-class ones. Number two, they should never accept service from another. They should never engage anyone to rub their body with oil or massage their feet. Number three, gormandizing and making independent arrangements for eating are to be wholly forsworn. Number four, sannyasis should never go to a physician or take medication according to their own wish. It's the duty of a sannyasi to serve the non-sannyasis. Number 5, a sannyasi residing within a mutt should give up the mentality, I am to be worshipped and served, and reside in the mutt for the sake of serving and he should reside in the mutt for the sake of serving all others. Otherwise, he should return home. Excessive babugiri, drinking too much milk and luxurious eating should be completely forsworn. Number 7, there is no need for bodybuilders to reside in the mutt, nor should it be like a gentleman's club. Only devotees should stay in the mutt. Number 8, strengthening the senses by taking medicines and tonics and trying to spread one's domination to attract others' wives or desiring to do so should entirely be given up. Number 9, we should always remember that Krishna is the only Lord and enjoyer of all, and that I am the servant of everybody. Number 10, one should serve a devotee according to his level of bhakti. We cannot attain any auspiciousness as long as we are not delivered from the evil elephant of considering that others should serve us. Number 11, the fire of lust that burns for sensual indulgence should be extinguished. 12, a brahmachari should not wish to become a sannyasi to procure enhanced sense enjoyment. The desire to dominate is not at all devotional service. Number 13, to consider a sannyasi a vilasi, sensualist, and wanting to become a sannyasi with that motive should be totally rejected. When a sannyasi needs any item, it's the duty of mattvasis to take care of his requirements. If a sannyasi is free from false ego, then the mattvasi should serve him. One who indulges his senses and is deceptive cannot serve the Lord or his devotees. We should be most careful that no type of babugiri enters the Sri Chaitanya Mutt, Sri Gaudiya Mutt, and associated mutts, which would ruin the sannyasi, grihastha and brahmacharis. The examples that we are getting should not be tolerated. Like the sannyasis, the householders should overcome the urges of desire and anger. 15, we must be alert not to fall to the same condition as persons creating their own misfortune by being averse to serving Hari, Guru, Vaishnavas. 16, bragging, foppery, deceitfulness are to be wholly given up by mattvasis. We should never forget that Krishna is to be served at every moment, and even more indispensable is service to Vaishnavas. There must not be any unnecessary attendant, and sannyasis or preachers must not be provided with any vehicle unless solely for the church's mission, Gaudiya mission. So it goes on. The mattvasi is not a place for babugiri. The spiritual hospital is not meant for its patients to display foppery. It's better if they behave that way by staying at home. Instead of wearing red, they can clad in white cloth and wear kacha and sent back home. Those who want foppery, opulent provender and medicines can go back home and care for their family. Then they will not have to identify themselves with the mutt. Sannyasis who do not indulge in foppery should be recognized as Gaudiya Mutt sannyasis. The rest should be sent back home. Even if consequently our manpower depletes, still it's better. If those who have taken shelter of the mutt but are motivated by their bellies and genitals are driven away, the expenses of the mutt will be reduced and also worldly disturbances. Those who come to render devotional service are brahmacharis, grihasthas, vanaprasthas and sannyasis. The mutt will not give shelter to persons who do not perform devotional service, for they are enemies of the mutt. I have rendered so much service to the mutt, so I'll ride in the car, boss others around and demand respect. I must have a big share in the leadership and management of the mutt. That mentality should never be encouraged. Such is the talk of mundane householders. Those serving the mutt should do so with no expectation of return. Okay, it goes on. So as we can see, that is mentioned that when the institution comes, then there'll be money, property, and then some people will come for wrong reasons. But we should understand that's not it. It's not it. Everyone is like that. Definitely, we should try to be on the highest level. But many things here are instructive. Gaudiya Mutt laid the foundation of ISKCON. So whatever is there happened is instructive to us. So there was rivalry in the leadership of Gaudiya Mutt. I won't go into that now much, but you can read about it in the book. it's better not to mention all that, but we have to know about it. Okay, now, what was very characteristic about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is his revolutionary character. So, in part 2 of this book, there's a section, The Revolutionary Preacher of the Truth. And here there's a quote, "The spiritually minded will judge how many major revolutions in history compared to the revolutionary preaching by the Gaudiya Math against the materialistic thought patterns of the world." The greatest revolution was this. So this is a long section, revolutionary preacher. This is what he came to do, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harini. He came to set the mood again proper, the philosophy, the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and their activity should be again in line with Rupa Goswami's teachings. The spiritually minded, we read that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur inherited the urge to preach from his father and mentor. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, energized by the Thakur's vision of Shuddha Bhakti, diffusing throughout the globe, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had an unrelenting drive to deliver Shuddha Bhakti to all jivas in the universe and even those beyond. He wanted to capture the whole territory of Maya and convert it to Krishna consciousness. We can see he was urgent, he was very intense. Stop this cutting. Tell them, don't do it. Just sit in class. No, all of you. We can see the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Intense and pushing and almost, some could say, not, rude, some would say. Because you have to see his motivation. He wanted to spread Krishna consciousness and he wanted to take the whole territory of Maya and make it into Krishna consciousness. So for that reason it looked like he was, not polite or very direct, forward, but actually he wanted to spread Krishna consciousness. Not restricted within the cultural horizon of Bengal, he wanted to highlight misconceptions at all levels in all cultures of human society and implement full-fledged theism everywhere. Even though seemingly impossible, he took it as his duty to spread Shuddha Bhakti by all means and at any cost. To establish Lord Chaitanya's mission, the fetters of caste, ritual, and indeed all pre-existing stereotypes and dogmas would have to be demolished. Hence, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati inevitably became a revolutionary. Revolution means taking everything back to the original place. They say revolution, it means bringing things back. So what was the Gaudiya system of thinking, of philosophy, of preaching? That had to be brought back. And right now, at the time that he was there, it was in chaos due to, there was no big organized preaching. And that happens in the material world. So now he came to set it right. He had to be a revolutionary. He had to be intense. His efforts were concentrated in Bengal, where Gaudiya Vaishnavism had lost its original dynamism, and from the ethnological perspective had transmuted into yet another component of the vast heterogeneous mosaic known as Hinduism. Gaudiya Math had come as a force, revolutionary force, to change the materialistic outlook and spiritualize people. So, but what happened? It says here, it merged into Hinduism. So although widespread, Vaishnava Dharma was enveloped by a thick fog of nescience. Having become synonymous with artificial shows of ecstasy, mantras imparted for money, flesh-eating devotees, meat-eaters, cheaters, competing to be lauded as avatars, Siddha Pranali initiation for the asking, and descriptions of amorous pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna, bandied about like cheap market gossip. In this way, Prakrita Sahajiyas had etiolated the movement of Sri Chaitanya into foolish and immoral travesty of Vaishnava Dharma. Srila Saraswati Thakur had to re-establish the genuine parampara, which had all but vanished. To purge the Gaudiya lineage of impurities, he publicly decried ecclesiastical and social conventions that were suffocating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya. So this was the mission, his mission. So he had to be intense, and they had to be conflict. They had to be. People won't listen. Especially they were using it for their sense gratification. And to block someone's sense gratification, what comes? If there's calm and you block calm, what happens? Krodh. So people got angry with him. Animated with the heroic spirit of Hanuman in opposing Ravan, Srila Saraswati Thakur committed himself to a lifetime of struggle against the beneficiaries of the rotten status quo. Preaching means fighting. Although Indian society had traditionally been deeply religious, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati insisted that mere theocentricity was not sufficient. Just being religious, that's not enough, but we have to preach. Thus, he openly criticized beliefs and practices held sacral by most Hindus, such as impersonalism and demigod worship. With unfaltering determination, he uninhibitedly cudgeled various misrepresentations of Vaishnava Dharma, business in the name of religion, casteism and atheism. It's very high words. Some of you might be going off, But he was on that mood. So, Western cultural chauvinism, sensualism, posing as spirituality, and innumerable forms of opinionative and deviant philosophies, whatever fell short of pure devotion to Krishna, was his target. This was in accord with the intrinsic purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, which singularly among scriptures established the topmost understanding of the Supreme Lord and the individual soul's relationship with him, and expounded Dharma Projita Kaitava, complete rejection of religious systems that are selfishly motivated. Holding that every word of Srimad Bhagavatam outweighs any other opinion, past, present, and future, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta likened all religious processes, save that given in Bhagavatam, to jars of poison with a little milk floating on top, and composed a distich based on Bhagavatam's rejection of motivated religious practice. He composed this verse. Prithvite yata jato katha dharma nama chale bhagavata kohe taha paripurna chale. Bhagavatam states that whatever in the world is passing as dharma is actually deception. Of course, this is based on that second verse of 1st Canto, chapter 1. So, this was the mood, and we are in that line, that we are propagating Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma is simply full surrender to Krishna and nothing short of that. No sense gratification. Not that, okay, we are not on that level, but what is the aim? That is the aim. And rejecting anything else, demigod worship, impersonalism, anything. Srila Saraswati Thakur lived for truth and, like a valiant warrior, never hesitated to attack the myriad manifestations of falsity. Personifying the spirit of Srimad Bhagavatam by insisting that the highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all, he effectively sifted out the real from the unreal, the servant of the real from the servant of the unreal, the Vaishnava from non-Vaishnava. He never countenanced the slightest deviation from the truth, nor even by the most eminent or nearest and dearest person, and would detect, expose, and dissect even the subtlest presence of fallacy in theories and statements that to others appeared entirely plausible. We see some preachers now like that also. With a deeper understanding of philosophy, then we can find out something is wrong. And therefore, even for us to read other books, other sampradayas, other texts, it's better to first study properly Prabhupada's books, get the philosophy correct, so that we find something is off, we should get it. We'll be able to get it. Otherwise, it will contaminate our understanding. So some people are very sharp. They're able to get it. Let's look at two of his writings. There's a lot in this section. We'll just cover this. His writings, The Revolutionary Preacher of Absolute Truth. Do not try to discover the nature of the truth by exercise of your imagination. Do not endeavor to attain the truth through experience of this world. Do not manufacture truth in order to satisfy your erring inclinations, or hastily accept anything for the reason that it satisfies such inclinations. Do not regard as truth anything that has been built up or has the support of a majority of people, like yourself, nor as untruth anything that is rejected by overwhelming majority. Everyone is worshipping him. We should know. It is here. As Prabhupada said, the truth is not discerned by popular vote. According to the scriptures, there will be found hardly 1 in a crore of human beings who really worships the truth. What is proclaimed by the united voices of all people of this world as truth may turn out to be false. Therefore, cease to confront the truth in a challenging mood. The truth is not brought into existence by such arrogance. One has to approach the truth in the spirit of absolute submission. It's necessary to listen to truth. Truth is self-revealing, and only when it is pleased to reveal itself can its actual nature be known to us, not otherwise. He explained why broadcasting the truth was rare. Everyone is eager for adoration by others, not for the absolute truth. Those who make a show of being preachers do not disturb mankind, but rather maintain everyone's present mentality while busy protecting their own existence. Therefore, there is no propagation of the truth, since one's popularity is not served by speaking or hearing the truth. You're getting more views or likes. That won't be there if we're speaking things to hurt people, to pluck out anarthas. Pure items are rare and not easily attainable, and so are not much appreciated. Similarly, there is no respect for those who do not misguide people, but are busy trying through Sankirtan and Harikatha to turn them to the Lord. At present, it is fashionable to be cheated by those who in the name of dharma misguide people. Real devotees do not speak to satisfy their audience. They do not cheat people. Rather, pure devotees reveal the defects of cheaters who love to compromise. Only fortunate persons learn to be cautious after hearing the words of saints. Although the words of genuine devotees may appear to contradict our present taste and experience, nonetheless, they are most auspicious for us. So, a section here explaining that major focus of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was to expose all the cheating, and majority of people will follow them, so everyone won't like him. Especially in the spheres of philosophy and religious practice. He denounced hypocritical all varieties of religion, practiced without intentioning of surrender to Krishna. Srila Saraswati Thakur was not for sectarian coexistence, conciliation or syncretism. He didn't say, okay, we live nicely, let them also preach, we'll preach, everything should go nicely, why are we fighting? His sole means for bridging the abyss between others and himself was to exhort them to come into his side. There's a difference between us, so give up your idea, take up our idea. He spoke against mushy tolerance of nonsensical ideas in the name of ecumenism, which he anyway took as a nebulous and impossible dream. We'll all be united together and happy, no. Happy, yeah, but not. We'll not become united, happy, and on the basis of tolerating others, cheating or misconceptions. Unless people were prepared to forswear miscellaneous rubrics of cheating religion and simply surrender unto Krishna, then he'll not stop preaching to them. He expostulated against the style of utopian consanity so cherished by worldly idealists who aimed at attuning all streams of human thoughts within an inclusive, tolerant, pluralistic, open-minded ethos in defiance of Krishna. As capsulized in Ramakrishna's catchy jingle, Yato Mat Tato Pat. All are approaching the Absolute in diverse ways. Now another right here, right up, very powerful, you can see his message. How can Sat and Asat, devotee and non-devotee, pious and sinful, literate and illiterate, demigod and supreme lord, chaste and unchaste, dharma and adharma, light and darkness, constitutional and conditional, bhakti and abhakti, be homologous? How can they be the same? Everything seems all right to those unmindful of the tidings of the internal reality, who cannot enter into its highly subtle understanding. An ignorant boy may claim that his illegible script has meaning because that of an intelligent person has meaning. And one who does not regard scroll and meaningful writing as equal will be accused of sectarianism or partiality and be foolish and by the foolish. If we appeal to popularists who have no comprehension of Hari, Harikatha and Satya Siddhanta, they will say that to promote genuine Siddhanta is sectarian and to refute Asat Siddhanta is blasphemy. They think when we know nothing, better to cook the accounts by calling everything equal. In this way, everyone will stay satisfied and there will be no mutual bad feeling. But truth and falsehood and devotion and non-devotion can never be one. Persons devoid of devotional sentiment, who feel no necessity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who do not want actual benefit, who consider sensual enjoyment and fame desirable, will adjudge contaminated and pure as one. Skipping some part here. When asked if Vaishnava Dharma could be acceptable to all, Srila Saraswati Thakur replied, there is no dharma other than Vaishnava Dharma. It's the eternal dharma of the jivas. Whatever else is propagated in the world as dharma is either a step toward or a perversion of Vaishnava Dharma. There is no use in being a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, animal, bird, tree, stone, demigod, human or demon. Let all become Vaishnavas and be situated in their eternal constitutional position. This is what Sri Mahaprabhu effected when he went to South India, where he loudly chanted the Lord's glories while traveling. His chanting created many Vaishnavas by his mercy. As he perambulated Jharkhand forest, even the birds, animals, trees, creepers became Vaishnavas. Worshippers of Shiva, Durga, atheists, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, impersonalists, materialists, mental speculators, yogis, ascetics, learned, foolish, sick, healthy, all became Vaishnavas. Mahaprabhu's only weapon was the chanting of the holy names. Those who became Vaishnavas in turn made others Vaishnavas by acting as spiritual masters under Mahaprabhu's order. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appreciated daring disciples who took risks in preaching and did not hedge or compromise. He referred to conciliators as good-for-nothings, or in Bengali, Shander Gobar, bull's dung, a disparaging term meaning a useless person. He cautioned his disciples that a flatterer can never be a guru or a preacher, and told them, don't speak to please the Janata, but to please Janardhan. Declared that those who do not perform Hari Bhajan are foolish and butchers of their own souls. The public may not like our message, yet it is incumbent upon us to state the truth. It's our responsibility to strongly refute ideologies opposed to Vaishnava Dharma. Our previous acharyas did so to a great degree, and our only duty is to follow in their footsteps. He viewed the disinclination to correct others as being a sign of a cheater and warned, do not associate with so-called sadhus who, by not chastising anyone, do not act for others' welfare. By associating with sadhus, the heart should become purified from sinful propensities. The present role of sadhus acting for others' mundane happiness can render no well-being whatsoever. Srila Saraswati Thakur thus personified Lord Chaitanya's statement, Nirapeksh nahile dharma na yai rakshan. Without being nirapeksha, impartial, aloof from popular opinion and equitable, one cannot protect dharma. He explained that nirapeksha means being unaffected by anything material and remaining steady in the Lord's service. In numerous speeches and articles, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati insisted that an actual sadhu must speak strongly. The only duty of sadhus is to cut away all the accumulated wicked propensities of every individual. This alone is the causeless natural desire of all sadhus. Worldly persons possess a double nature. They express one kind of sentiment, but internally cherish a different purpose. Moreover, they want to advertise their duplicity as a mark of liberalism or love of harmony. Those who are unwilling to show any duplicity, who desire to be frank and straightforward, or in other words, to exercise unambiguously the function of the soul, such really sincere individuals are called sectarian and orthodox by those who practice duplicity. We will cultivate the association only of those who are straightforward and avoid the company of others. By all means, we must avoid bad company. We are advised to keep a distance of 100 cubits from animals of the horned species and should observe the same in caution in regard to all insincere persons. Without doubt, a sadhu's words possess power to destroy the evil propensities of one's mind. In this way, sadhus benefit everyone who associates with them. There are many things which we do not disclose to the sadhu. The real sadhu makes us speak out what we conceal in our hearts. He then applies the knife. The very word sadhu has no other meaning than this. He stands in front of the block with the uplifted sacrificial knife in his hand. The sensuous desires of men are like goats. The sadhu stands there to kill those desires by a merciful stroke of the keen edge of the sacrificial knife in the form of unpleasant language. If the sadhu turns into my flatterer, then he does me harm. He becomes my enemy. If he flatters us, we will be led to the road which brings worldly enjoyment but no factual well-being. He is a sadhu by contact with whom the weapon of his words can cause one to give up all mischievous behavior, all attachments to the non-absolute, and all imagined concepts. The aggressive pronouncement of concrete truth is the crying necessity of the moment. For silencing the aggressive propaganda of specific untruth that is being spread all over the world. He maintained that Vaishnava aggression is required to counter enemies of the truth. The loyal servant of the Absolute Truth is required to be the active opponent of all violent enemies of the truth. It's the imperative duty to protest against the violence of non-atheists in uncompromising terms and take all consequence of the protest. He is to give up his own life if he is not in a position to oppose the enemy of Vishnu in an effective manner and cannot also avoid their society. If he possesses the power, it is his imperative duty to use it against the violence. One who does not perform these imperative duties commits a grave offense against the truth. The theist is by no means enjoined by the scriptures to be non-violent, passive spectator of violent acts of aggressive non-atheists against Vishnu and his devotees. There's a lot here. We'll read two more and then stop. Srila Saraswati Thakur was more concerned with preciseness than politeness. He spoke what people needed to hear rather than to nourish their perverted desires. Never employed euphemisms or other devices that might have softened the message and made it more palatable. He explained, a chant of Harikatha is necessarily the uncompromising enemy of worldliness and hypocrisy. It is his constant function to dispel all misconceptions by preaching the truth in its most unambiguous form without any consideration of person, place, or time. The form to be adopted is that which is least likely to be misunderstood. It is his bounden duty to clearly and frankly oppose any person who tries to deceive and harm himself and others by misrepresenting the truth, whether due to malice or genuine misunderstanding. This will be possible if the chant of Kirtan is always prepared to submit to being trodden upon by thoughtless people, if such discomfort will enable him to benefit his persecutors by chanting of the truth in the most unambiguous way. If he is unwilling or afraid of consideration of self-respect or personal discomfort to chant Kirtan under all circumstances, he is unfit to be a preacher of the absolute truth. Humility implies perfect submission to the truth and no sympathy for untruth. That is the definition of humility. Perfect submission to the truth, no sympathy for untruth. Those who entertain any partiality for untruth are unfit to chant Harikatha. Any clinging to untruth is opposed to the principle of humility, born of absolute submission to the truth. Anyway, I'll just cut to this part. As His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada later wrote, no compromise. Ramakrishna, avatars, yogis, everyone was an enemy to Guru Maharaj. He never compromised. Some godbrothers complained that this preaching was a chopping technique and it would not be successful. But we have seen that those who criticized fell down. Such a contentious stand, that is the end of Prabhupada's quote. Such a contentious stand was certainly at odds with the ecumenic current of the world and could not be substantiated merely by polite speeches. If he spoke nicely, politely, he could not have done what he did, which was to lay the foundation for ISKCON to come. Now ISKCON, Mahaprabhu's movement was that anyone could take the holy name and chant, and who will be the Guru? The one who knows the science of Krishna. So that could not have happened if a lot of these obstacles were not overcome. But to overcome these obstacles, he had to be very heavy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had temple doors closed on him in Vrindavan, stones hurled to him in Navadvip, and had to face constant vindictiveness and confrontation, including even bids on his life. But despite taking all risk and provoking enmity, he remained unshakably confident and never wavered in his resolve, knowing that he could not be defeated, for his message had been received from the infallible source of Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. He fully dependent on Krishna's protection, trusting that as their surrendered representative, all the Parampara Acharyas and Krishna himself were directly behind him, as had been revealed in the divine vision in Vrajapatna. He had the dream that we explained. They all came in his dream and said, "We are behind you." With this conviction, he was determined to execute their mission, even by imperiling his life. He seemed to gain enthusiasm in proportion to the ferocity of opposition, and considered such resistance indicative that his efforts were taking effect. When there was more opposition, more chaos, he became more and more enthusiastic and became enlivened. Actually, they said that for Prabhupada also, when they were describing that that incident, and in New York when the court case was there, that the more people attacked, Srila Prabhupada became more enlivened to fight. And he, at the end of the Juhu incident, you know what the Juhu incident is? Yeah. He said that was a good fight. Someone should write a book on it, and a book was written. Okay, regarding obstructions. Previously, only foolish groups, not understanding the Gaudiya Math's teachings, in various tricky ways, used to open, imitate and compete with us, or just make monkey faces at us. But now it's clear that even bodies much esteemed by the educated community are also trying to attack our institution of spotless spiritual instruction. This is a good sign. If this is happening in the beginning of our preaching activities, what could be more auspicious? Just as in homeopathic treatment, if initially the aggravation increases and the thermometer rises, that means the medicine is having effect. Let us hope that next year we will get 100 times more obstructions to our broadcasting of the truth, 100 times more strength to overcome such obstacles, and 10 million times more enthusiasm for service. We also wish auspiciousness to those who oppose us. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. I didn't read some of the more heavy ones. Millions of material